YouTube, konnichiwa! You're watching a video from Akinuma. So let's get into some tips and tricks about everything, right? So, some tips and tricks we're going to go over is getting career growth in your resume, demonstrating that. The tools available for career growth and resume writing, and we're also going to go over tips of job hunting as well, and how to network. So let's start with career growth, how to show that in your resume. So gain education, okay? So get degrees, certifications, licenses, and write them on that resume, okay? Because now you're showing you know what you're doing. And then, so something that I'm sure if you consider college or have gone to college, you know, it's hard for someone like that. It's hard to get a job with just the education. So an ideal thing, especially if you're going into a whole new industry, is to apply to internships and fellowships to gain experience in the field. So when you actually go for a legitimate job within a company, you have that experience. And then, of course, apply to relevant entry-level positions. For example, if I've only had 2 years of front-end development, I'm not going to apply to a senior front-end developer position. I'm going to go for either a junior or a mid-level one. Or I might continue with just with a basic front-end developer position, just one at a different company that just happens to pay more. There's pretty much that. So let's get into some tools available. So I do like giving free tools because free 99 is great. And so when it comes to resume writing, websites like myperfectresume.com is great. So myperfectresume.com in particular has an AI that you can give your resume to. It doesn't write it for you, so you don't have to worry about it changing things that you don't know about. But what it does is it actually evaluates it, it grades it, and it sends you feedback on it. So, and then you could just make those edits and send it back through and just continuously do that until you get the grade you want, which is nice. It also does that for cover letters. When it comes to myperfectresume.com, they do have a service on there where someone can handwrite it for you, but that one is an expense. So that you have to pay for. But I want to put that out there anyway, just in case you're interested. Mentorship programs. There are free mentorship programs. I really recommend that you go ahead and Google them, because not every mentorship program is fitting for everyone, okay? Not every program has every industry, so there's going to be programs you're going to find that don't have the industry you're interested in or are in, or they just don't have the type of people that will help you get yourself where you want to be. But if you want a good starting point, adplist.org is a great place to go. But again, I encourage a Google search so you can find the one that's best for you. Interview training. So Contra.com, they're great for it. So they actually have a free PDF that you can download that kind of gives you a breakdown of phone screens and interviews, and gives you a breakdown of what they're about, what the interviewer is trying to do in those calls. And it kind of gives you techniques and how to effectively answer those most commonly asked interview and phone screen questions. They also, I believe they also do have a service on there that actually you can sign up for someone to call you and do a mock interview or phone screen with. So that's helpful too. If you're someone who wants that kind of practice, Contra.com is great for you. Job seeker seminars. So I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a crash course and giving you the quick rundown of everything. I haven't really dived too deep into things. So that's something. And So you can search up free ones in your area. I know an international one for the US where it's AARP has job seeker seminars that are free that you can join and things like that. But again, Google to find one that's close by you. It could be like at a venue, or it could be virtual via like Zoom or something like that. But I encourage you to look. If you're military affiliated, there are free programs that you are eligible for, and even your spouse is eligible for. For example, Hire Our Heroes, HOH. Okay, they do both veterans, active duty, spouses, and reservists. They do them all. And so they have various programs. For example, they have a job seeker seminar known as Amplify. Very good. Really recommend it if you qualify for that. And they also have connections to get you into ACP, which is American Corporate Partners, such as a mentorship program, or they even have connections to another mentorship program named Viterati. But yeah, and then HHUSA is Hire Heroes USA. This is a great one-stop shop for networking tips, interview practice, cover letter writing, profile writing, which I'm going to get into profile writing in a second, as well as resume writing. So Hire Heroes USA, HHUSA, is a really great one-stop shop, okay? So let's get into those tips for job hunting, where we'll get into some of those things I said we'll get into later. So, position snipe. What is position sniping? Okay, so it's where you're targeting specific types of roles. And I'm not talking about just specific industry. I'm talking about specific roles within an industry. Because some people will be generic where they're like, I just want any IT role. Right? But they're target specific IT roles at a specific level. Okay? I really recommend that because that's where you're really going to start seeing effective results, because you're targeting things that are designed towards what you're capable of. Okay, use keywords relevant to the position you're seeking, which is, again, where I talked about that lingo, okay? Because you're going to want to have two different resumes. So you're going to want to have a master resume and a target resume. So that target resume you're not going to save. You're just going to, because it's constantly going to change because you're changing it for every job you're applying for. But that master resume is a living, breathing document that keeps track of all your work experience, all your education. It keeps track of your entire career and every detail of it. So I recommend having your master resume if you don't have one. Because what you could do with the master resume, talk about perfect timing, what you can do with that is keep profiles updated and filled out as much as possible. With that master resume, what you're able to do is you're able to go ahead and you're able to use that to upload to your profile. Because profiles aren't designed for a specific role, they're not designed for a specific company or anything, so a profile is not designed for that, such as LinkedIn. So it doesn't make sense to use it for that. So, because you're just limiting the searches you're going to be found for, you're being very limited. So I encourage you to use your master resume. And something in particular I encourage is to fill out it to the most of your comfortability. So please, I know it can be tedious, but fill out that skill section of LinkedIn, okay? Because what the AI does, when I go to search for somebody, and I use that skills section, I use the skills section of their search engine, it's only looking through what people have put in their skills section. So you could talk about, let's say, program management all day, or you know what, no, we've been using this example the whole time, front-end development. I could say front-end development all day long in my description of all the roles I've done. But if I don't actually add that skill into my skills section, the AI just assumes I don't have it, and what it'll do one of two things. It'll either put me at the bottom of the list, or it won't put me on the list at all. Now, I have heard people say, well, I got on the list, that's great. Depending. Because, for example, if I'm a recruiter and I have only an hour to source, and I do a search and the results come up to 600 profiles, search results. That means I have 600 profiles I can look through. And let's say your resume, your profile goes on to, it's 473, right? It's the 473rd profile down that list. Odds are I'm not even going to be aware you were even there. And that's the problem with that. So the more skills you have, the more keywords you're hitting, the more inclusive your profile is to your career, the more searches you're going to be on, the higher up the searches you're going to be on, and all of that. And there are some things about profiles, or actually I'll talk about it now, and if I talk about it again, I do. But something you're going to want to do as well. You know what? Let's do this. So back to the skills section first. So when it comes to the skills section, if you're someone who's in government contracting or the military and has a clearance, I highly encourage you to put the skill, at least I know it verbatim for LinkedIn, DHS Active Security Clearance. Very, very few people use this, so please use it, because it's going to put you within the top 50 of any search once that recruiter uses that skill. And I like, this is the part I'll talk about, I might talk about again, but you want these recruiters to come and talk to you and stuff like that. So something I recommend, when they see that you had that clearance, they know they're not at risk of wasting an in-mail, because at least the way LinkedIn is and Indeed, you have specific amount of in-mails you can use to reach out to potential candidates. Okay, we call them potential candidates because they haven't applied. Okay, so we are not able to actually actively, it's harder to actually justify considering them for a job in that case. So when they see that you have that security clearance, they're less scared of reaching out to you because they now know that you're going to tell them you have a clearance. Now the question is, do you have the level of clearance they need? And if it's a secret clearance they need, then they know you definitely have that because that's the lowest level. Well, it's the first one above confidential, and confidential is kind of borderline not considered a clearance in some cases. But yeah. So another thing to get recruiters to talk to, another thing with the emails for recruiters, they have to have a response ratio, meaning they have to have a specific amount of people respond to their messages. Otherwise, they lose the ability to message people. And if I'm a recruiter and I can't message people, I can't get out people to apply to the job. So that's why it's so important for recruiters to have that ability, and that's why they're very particular who they message, because they need that ability and they need to preserve that ability. Now, to get them to reach out to you, because let's say you have all the skills, you have all the keywords, there's a few other steps you want to take to really tell them, hey, come talk to me. You want to go to your profile picture, at least on LinkedIn, you want to go to your profile picture and you'll see where you can add frames. You want to add the open to work frame, because this tells them you're looking for a position. And if you're looking for a position, obviously if they're coming to you for a position, you're going to answer. So if you have all the skills, you have all the keywords, you have that frame, you're meeting all the check marks that tell them, hey, reach out to me. Do it one better and have yourself show as an active member on LinkedIn. And what you can do to do that, it's very simple and easy. Just like a post someone does. Comment on a post someone does. Make a post of your own. Just logging in and doing job searches. Anytime you're just on LinkedIn, it counts you as active. So that does it one better, because then they see you have the frame, you have the keywords, you have the skills, and you're active. So that's something I really encourage. And then something for yourself to do is join email lists and create job alerts. So what you can do with that, because what doing email lists or newsletters of companies does is it allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of what they're hiring and when and where. Okay? Doing job alerts on websites like LinkedIn or Indeed helps you keep your finger on the pulse of who is hiring what, when, and where. Right? And the cool thing about that is so there's more fish in the sea than there are fishermen, meaning there are more people looking for a job than there are people hiring for jobs right now. So the idea is to get yourself in as soon as possible and get yourself as far across as you can. Now, granted, when it comes to applying, once you apply, you just have to let the process be the process. So when you apply, don't think you're going to get an answer within 5 minutes or within a day or even 2 days. Granted, you want to let it take its time to process. So if you haven't heard anything in a week, then feel free to reach out to someone if you can. But if it's only been a day or 2 days, you don't have to reach out. Just to kind of give you an idea, because you don't want to badger the team, because obviously you want them to have a good experience with you because you want them to consider you for the job. So you want to be careful with badgering them. But at the same time, you don't want to go on the leeway. So if they haven't reached out in a week, you can reach out to them. But yeah, the job alerts, emails, lists, newsletters, they keep your finger on the pulse of who is hiring, when, what, when, and where. And it helps you be one of the earlier applicants, which helps you get more notice sooner, get farther across the pipeline. And the cool thing about getting farther across the pipeline is the fact that if I'm ready to hand you an offer for the job, right? And then for that front-end developer position, right? And Jane Doe finally applies. I'm not going to risk going through the hiring process with Jane Doe and put you on hold to find out Jane Doe doesn't survive the hiring process, or she decides to drop out within mid-process, right? So at that point, I'm just going to let her sit there, and I'm going to just give you the offer and be done with it, because that's less risky. So just to give you that idea. So how to network, and this is where we might get into more of those tips again. But joining groups or societies. So these could be groups on LinkedIn or Indeed. These could be societies, for example, archaeology. There's an archaeological society that's nationwide, so throughout the entire U.S. That has chapters in various cities and various states, right? I encourage you to, if your industry has stuff like that, I encourage you to join those, because they're great for getting to meet people, and you never know who you might be talking to who is looking for someone like you. Okay? So that's the idea, is to naturally and organically create those what we call kitchen conversations, where it's those informal, unexpected conversations that lead to very fruitful connections. Okay? That's something you want to do. Now, if you're concerned about memberships, because I know, it's hard, which is why I give free tools and stuff like that, because it's hard to look for a job, and it's hard to put money into getting a job when you don't have a job and you have bills to pay. So I get that. So there's free resources out there. Now, when it comes to these memberships, there is a way to go around it for free. For example, societies will have, if you go to a society's home website and you go to their events page, what you can do is you'll see that they have open houses. Now, open houses are free. You just have to register, so you just have to tell them you'll be there, essentially, via that RSVP they provide. And then you just go to that, because those open houses are meant to recruit new members for societies. So you're able to go there and talk to people. I definitely encourage it regardless. At least go to one open house first before joining an organization or society. because you want to know they're a fit for you and things like that. So there's that. But yeah, those are free, and you can do that and meet people that way, because there will be members that do those open houses, and of course there will be non-members as well. Reach out in positions you're wanting to be in. So this is a way to find a mentor without being in a mentor program and things like that. So seeing someone who's in a position you're aspiring to become, you can reach out to them. And now when you do reach out to people that don't know you, for example on LinkedIn, you want to send them a message with that connection invitation, because you want them to know why you're connecting with them and things like that, because otherwise you risk them just ignoring it. And so if you find someone, you're trying to be a senior front-end developer, and you find someone who is a senior front-end developer, you can reach out to their connection request saying, "Hi, I just wanted to pick your brain. I hope you accept my connection request. I just wanted to pick your brain of being a senior front-end developer." That's something to do. Because what they could do is they can become a mentor and someone who you can use to bounce off ideas. You can use to develop a path in growing your career and things like that. But that is something to consider when it comes to that. And then, of course, reach out to those in companies you apply. These are people that can become advocates for your application. So in LinkedIn in particular, you'll notice at a job post that you'll see a Meet the Hiring Team section. Typically in this section, you'll see recruiters and human resources and hiring managers. Okay? These are great people to reach out to. Now, I'll get into this in a second. But I encourage you to reach out to them. And of course, naturally, when you do that connection request, I encourage you, of course, to put a note there as well that you were interested in their company, and therefore that's why you're connecting. Do not, when it comes to reaching out to people for these kind of things, do not reach out and immediately ask to talk about a job. Okay, let's say you apply to that front-end developer position, right? And you find out I'm a recruiter for it, right? It's not ideal for you to reach out to me, introduce yourself, and tell me your qualifications and ask if we can talk about the front-end developer position, first message. Because there is a process and policies in place within the company that prevent me from going outside and just having conversations with people and just picking them for a job. Okay, there's a process in place. And when you're asking to talk about it outside of me choosing to reach out to you via your application, you're essentially somewhat asking to break the hiring process. And we can't do that. So at that point, we're just going to either not respond or just tell you we'll get to you when we get to you. So it's really not helpful for you in that way, because it's not helpful for you to get the response of I'll get to you when I get to you. So what you want to do first is say, hey, this is who I am. It's nice to meet you. I applied to this company, so I was hoping that you and I could get together so we could talk about the company and your experience with the company. That's a bit different. You're asking for just information regarding the company and myself. I'm more likely to respond to that. Now, when it comes to the job itself, if you want to just immediately get into that, if you ask specific questions about the job rather than say, hey, let's talk about the job, I'm more willing to respond to that as well. For example, if you reach out to me and you say, hey, I'm here, hey, I applied to this job, this is who I am, I was curious of the salary range of that position, I will answer and just tell you the salary range. If our company doesn't have policies that prevent me from doing so. Most don't, from my experience, most companies don't have a policy like that, but there are some who are trying to be very hush-hush. But yeah. So that's kind of really what to do, is to ask about the company and the experience, or just specific details about a job, rather than asking to talk about how you match the job. Now, if you kind of get crickets when you send messages, something to start doing going forward with other people is to offer to buy a cup of coffee. Now, Starbucks does have virtual gift cards. So let's say you're doing a remote role and they're not in and the recruiter's not in your area. You can send them a virtual gift card to get them a cup of coffee. If they're in your area, what you can do is actually invite them to meet up and have a cup of coffee together and talk about the company and their experience and things like that. And when you're actually talking to them about all that stuff and you happen to bring up the job and talk about the job and things like that, that's a little different. Because that becomes more of an informational interview in that regard, rather than you trying to say, hey, I want to talk about how I need the job. So those are some networking tips to go to kind of consider regarding everything. Thank you, YouTube. If you liked the video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Johnny!